Welcome all to the Pension Subcommittee and Pension Board. Sorry, I'm a minute or so late. Arlene, I believe, yeah, there. You're running us through today's business, please.
Okay, thank you. Can I just remind everybody that the meeting is being recorded, and would ask that members don't admit any persons waiting in the lobby into the meeting, please. And I'll now take a roll call for the minute. Bailey Sors.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Black.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Rome.
Yes, I'm here, Arlene.
Bailey Keenan.
Present.
I've had apologies from Councillor McHugh. Councillor Crichton. Councillor Donaldson.
Present.
Councillor Duff.
Yes, present.
Kenny Dick.
Present. Present.
Claire Shepherd. Arthur Nichol.
Here, thanks.
Michael Charlton. And James Cunningham. Convener, that concludes the roll call. Will it just carry on?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Item 1, declaration of interest. Are there any declarations? Not seeing any declarations, so that takes us on to item 2, apologies, which have already been noted. If there are any other, could be intimated in the chat, please. Item 3, minute of the previous meeting held on the 8th of December.
Assuming that's approved.
That takes us then on to item 4, appointment of chairperson of pension board.
So in accordance with the Public Sector Pensions Act of 2013, the subcommittee are asked to seek nominations for the post of chair of the pension board for the next 12 months. The post of chair is subject to annual change by the regulations. Over the past year, the role was carried out with great dedication by George Ramsey. And given George's recent passing, I'd like just to take a moment for members to recognise the significant contribution to the board and to the subcommittee and officers. And I think on behalf of all of us, we'd like to extend our sincere thanks and appreciation for George's services and our condolences to his friends and family at this particularly difficult time. Bill, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yes, I'd like to endorse your comments about George Ramsey. I knew him from two contexts. One, his service to the pension board, and I attended a number of external meetings with him, and I also knew him from the world of junior football, where he was a loyal servant of Dundee Violet. So yeah, very sad to hear that, and it was quite a shock. On the business of today, can I propose Councillor Donaldson for the role of chair?
You certainly can. I was just waiting to come on to that. As people will know, the role switches between employer and member representatives, and as George was a member representative, the rotation now falls to the employers. So we've got a nomination for Councillor Donaldson. Is that acceptable to members?
Yeah, thanks.
Stuart, you're quite happy with that, presumably?
Yes, I am, and
Yeah,
also can I also just concur with the previous comments about George Ramsey? But yes, I'm willing to do this for a year. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Arlene, back to you.
Okay, thanks. That takes us on to item 5, Tayside Pension Fund Risk Register, and this is for approval.
So this is reviewed on a quarterly basis. Members are asked to approve and note no changes to the risk profile since the previous report. Not seeing any. Oh, Kenny, please.
Yeah, just something that concerned me when I was looking at this, and I note the internal audit report coming later. But it's risk flag number 16, where we've got an appetite and minimalist, and the likelihood of that happening is sitting at 4 just now, which is likely. I would like to see something more about, what has been done to get that likelihood back down in line with the risk appetite. And there's a few like that. So it's a general point, and it's probably something that is covered by the internal audit report in a certain extent, but it's just to make sure that we're picking up on that and using this risk register as intended. Thanks.
Okay, sure. Who's going to pick up on that question? Paul, please.
Thanks, Kenny, for your comments, and certainly happy to take that on board, reflecting that and also the outcome of the internal audit report.
Okay, I've got Bailey Keenan next. Kevin.
Thanks. Well, I'm just wondering whether we should have sort of additional risk based on the troubles in the world. America is obviously threatening to wipe out power stations in countries, and shipping lanes are closed. Then obviously manufacturing will be affected throughout the world as goods isn't getting round it quite the same. So wondering whether there is areas that we're invested in where that risk is getting extremely high, or might not be delivered due to the sort of conflicts.
Sure. Very valid points. Paul, please.
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. Thanks, Bailey Keenan. Officers, we did discuss the very points that you raise, and obviously share those concerns and the wider impact and risks that can involve. Nevertheless, this is a quarterly review of the risk register as at the end of December. So we will look closely at that over coming months, and we'll continue to work with our advisors and our investment managers to identify in terms of what potential impact the current volatility may have in future years.
Thanks.
Yeah, you okay with that? I mean, the circumstances you've referred to are obviously out with the reporting period for this risk register, but going forward, it's obviously something we have to look at very seriously.
Agreed.
Stuart, I think you were next.
Thanks very much. It's on the risk register under point 11 under governance. I'll leave aside on GMP. On pensions dashboard, I think we'll come to that later on, and I do have one, perhaps two questions on that, but specifically on the McLeod judgment, and it's covered also in the next section, one or two other areas. Just how much of a risk is that? Are we in a position where we can break the backbone of this, or is it going to be a persistent problem that's going to use up a lot of our staff capacity to resolve really what I think in some cases are very complex cases?
Paul, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Donaldson, for your question. So just to confirm, it continues to be a very significant issue, Councillor Donaldson, and the requirement to spend a significant amount of officers' time in terms of working in that area. You'll be well aware of the review currently ongoing of the resource within the pension fund, and we'll be looking very closely at this and all other areas to ensure that the appropriate level of resources in there to manage that and moving forward, and keep members up to date as we go through that process.
But just to ask Paul, with McLeod, it's an issue that's going to be with us conceivably for a number of years.
That would be my understanding, Councillor Donaldson. I guess the significant issue is the respect, but looking back in terms of the volume. But I'll hand over in terms of any officers that are more closely related to the work, if they want to come in with further detail, or alternatively we can come back.
Yeah, I'll certainly come back. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'm happy to come in
Thanks,
here,
Amanda.
and just from the administration side, just say that we have made obviously good steps towards with McLeod. Obviously, we've in the administration performance report, we've obviously confirmed that we've switched on business as usual from the 1st of November. So all members' calculations that are being done going forward from that date are having the McLeod applied to their benefits, and we've obviously started the rectification work from January, so there'll be an update provided in next month's quarterly reports on the progress with that, but we have been working through that. It does take up significant resources, and obviously, as Paul said, we will be factoring that into our resources review as we go through that.
And I think the only thing on this, we're certainly not alone amongst other, it's a problem common to virtually all pension funds, yeah. But thanks anyway.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Stephen?
Thanks, Chair. I'll try not to dwell on it. Kenny made the point earlier on, largely covering the whole sector of it, and the fact that risk is obviously dealt with in the later paper, the audit paper. Was looking specifically at 17 about governance and expertise, both in administrators and pension board members. Now, as I say, that is touched on later about individual training, but there's also a narrative in that audit around the wider context of looking at those risks and whether, no change is acceptable, what the acceptable level of risk is, and what the target should be aiming for in that greater narrative. And so I think that's a concern. Just saying no change from quarter to quarter, it doesn't really quite explain whether that is a good thing or a bad thing. And I do think there are issues in terms of individual training levels. I need to offer some expertise, and I know we've got quite a difficulty in terms of both ends of the chain. Obviously, we've lost expertise recently, and we're also struggling to recruit enough pension administrators to deal with things. And so I think it's a concern. I share Kenny's concerns and the concerns of many members, and we'll maybe touch on that later on as well.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. And Arthur.
Yeah, just quickly on both those points, although I think I was planning on picking up on what Councillor Rome mentioned in terms of the staffing of the pension in the next section, but just on this one about the McLeod, I mean, my understanding of McLeod is that the McLeod remedy is that the vast majority of our members, the McLeod calculation comes out nowhere near as beneficial as the care scheme. That's my understanding, and therefore, hopefully, I mean, I don't know whether or not the instructions are that the pension sections must do a full calculation for McLeod, and if so, that's unfortunately what we've got to do. But I would have thought that it would be quite easy to see, quite simply with a very basic calculation, that a significant numbers that the McLeod is never going to be protection, never going to be anywhere close to the ongoing kind of care calculations. So it's a shame that we have to spend so much time on every case when actually so many of them the McLeod remedy just isn't going to be really coming into the running. My general point was about staffing levels, but I think I can maybe pick that up in the next section. Thanks.
Okay, we'll hold it over to the next section. Paul was wanting to come in.
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. It was really just to pick up on the point that Councillor Rome made, and I appreciate it wasn't necessarily a question, but it was just to kind of pick up on that wider point of training and development. So I've mentioned the review already. A key part of that review was to look at training needs and analysis assessment for all officers, and that will be a key part of that. But in terms of pension board and committee training and development, there is a process that allows for all board members to have that wider training, and we're looking at that assessment just now for the new year, so there will be an opportunity on that side as well, if that reassures members.
Okay, thanks, Paul. And with those comments, I'm assuming approval for item 5. So, Arlene, please.
Okay, that takes us on to item 6, pension administration performance, and this is for noting.
Okay, there seemed to be a few questions at the previous section that were maybe getting rolled into this, so wanting to amplify. Arthur, please.
Yeah, it's we've now got better some better figures to give us a better idea of some of the things that are going on that are good for that. My concern is really about the question that we seem to run the pension section in terms of the administrative side of it more lean than I think we probably want. I think we seem to be now. I appreciate maybe the question is it's about staff, because in the past there has been significant issues with staffing levels, and we're kind of sorted out in terms of the establishment not actually being full and having vacancies. But I mean, I understood at the moment we're pretty much close to a full establishment, and I'm noticing that we're still running quite close to some of the deadlines, and we seem to operate on the basis of, the deadlines and not much better, unfortunately. And I wonder. My view is that the pension. I mean, I appreciate the pension fund's got a reason why it has lots of funds, but it is the pension fund that funds the pension team that does the administration. I don't know why, as a service to the membership, the members that pay into it, that there isn't. I appreciate because the team sits within Dundee City Council as an administrating authority. There's been a tendency to say that team should face the same stringencies that other teams within sections within the administrative authority faces in terms of the cuts we've had to face over the years with budget funding squeezes, etc. From a union perspective, I understand why that's done. However, I do believe that the pension section is a special case, that it delivers a service to the members across all the bodies that are in the Tayside Pension Fund, and that actually the fund should maybe be a bit more generous in terms of actually staffing it slightly better, so that we could offer members a better service than I think we actually do. I'm not criticising the team. I think it's about the fact that the team is under-resourced, and that's a longer term view that I've picked up in terms of it. And I think we're run it too tight, and I think that's because of a policy that kind of wants to fit it in with the funding squeeze that the council itself faces, rather than reflect that there's perhaps a different priority in terms of this team and how the service it delivers. And I would like to see better staffing levels in there to deliver a better service for members, by having better turnarounds on some of the figures. If that makes sense. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Arthur. Yeah, Paul, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Arthur, for your question. So just to reassure yourself and other members of the board, officers are very reflective of what you've just said. We've reflected on the previous feedback that's been received from the committee in terms of resources. We're undertaking that review just now. That review has made good progress. We've seen draft findings of the review. I'm not going to go into the detail of the draft findings just now, but part of the review does indicate that, well, part of the review is to look at the level of resources that we have for administration and the other aspects of the pension fund across other comparable funds. And the conclusion is that we do need to put additional resources in on that. So we're looking at that to do so. Notwithstanding that, I would look at the current level of performance within the table, and whilst there are a number of cases that are completed out with statute, if you look at the average number of cases and the volume of work that's being dealt with, it is all within that statutory period, which would indicate to me that a lot of the issues are those complex and outliers that are driving these figures. But notwithstanding that, we do agree with the findings in the review, and we'll be looking to implement that as soon as possible. My final point in terms of the PIs, though, is that, whilst these PIs, can be impacted on by the length of time it's taken within the team to deal with cases, it's not the sole factor, and on many occasions things can be delayed through the provision of information, for example, from employers. So we need to take that into consideration as well. But that's covered as part of the review as well. So we'll be looking to pick up on that in terms of more thorough engagement with all members, etc., and their employers to ensure that they understand, the consequences of that, and that we're enabled to provide the best level of service for all members as you seek, Arthur.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Thanks.
Arthur, come back or?
No, that's fine, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Kenny?
Yeah, just a question on the table in section 5.1, amendment to the account. It's the number of days to complete. It's gone up from 12 to 164. That seems a massive increase for a a quarterly change, given the quarter's only 90 days. So I just wondered why that was, and if there could be any explanation of why there's such an increase.
Paul, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks again for your question, Kenny. So I don't have that information to hand. I'll ask if Amanda does, and if she can provide it. Failing that, we're happy to come back out with the committee.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So having a look at the table, the main reason for the figures going up would be because we had an additional resource in the team, and we got a new member of staff, and they will have been looking at some of the tasks that maybe had been less priority and had been getting picked up and cleared as part of their training. So for instance, an example, members' nomination forms form part of that task. And when a new member of staff joins us, they will clear all the nomination forms. So they will go through and update all the members' records, and that'll clear a backlog of calculations that are updates to members' records that have been waiting. And that's the main reason, is a new member of staff joining our team.
Happy with that, Kenny?
Yeah, that makes sense. Looking at the numbers completed in quarter 3 as well, it suggests maybe going through a backlog or whatever. That's fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Stuart.
Thank you very much, Willie. Could I go to 5.3, member self-service update, pension portal? And maybe we'll come on to this later as well with the pensions dashboard, although I think I'm right in saying that doesn't come fully into effect until October of this year. But looking at the figures here, I worked out we've got between 50,000 and 51,000 active members, deferred members and pensioners. But what does concern me here is with the portal, the previous portal which ceased operation, that 38%, nearly 40%, 2 out of 5 of the scheme membership were registered users. That has now fallen, and it's quite a marked fall, to 11%. So in terms of communication with our members, what actions are we likely to take, or are we going to wait for the pensions dashboard to fully come into effect? And perhaps that includes the use of AI.
I'm happy to pick this one up as well. So,
thanks, Amanda.
No problem. When we moved over from the member self-service system to the new pensions portal, as obviously outlined in the report, I did do some communication to members, but the biggest reasons for members logging in are to view their annual benefit statement. So we would expect those numbers to vastly jump up come sort of like end of August time, when their benefit statements are all provided. That is when we'll see the biggest increase in membership. We have communicated to members, all previously registered members received an email when the new member self-service portal was set up to advise them to re-register, as well as we've done some communication on our website to try and promote it. It is an area that we will be looking to obviously continue promoting by contacting employers as we'll go through to do that, but at the moment we're just doing it through our own website and contact with members.
Just to follow up on that, Amanda, and thanks very much, and you mentioned the end of August. I'm right in saying the new pensions dashboard, that goes fully into effect in October of this year, is it?
Yes.
And will that give enhancements like, I don't know if we are going to, with it, use artificial intelligence methods, whatever?
So the pensions dashboard system won't link in with our own systems, but it will direct members on how they can view their information. So that's an external site where members can access all pension details, so they can log in, and we're registered on that. So when the pension dashboard goes live, a member can go in and put in their personal details, and it will show pensions that they've got with schemes, so as well as us, it'll show their state pension, their other pension rights, and everything elsewhere. So it's bringing everything together. For ours, they will provide a link to our member self-service portal, where they'll then be able to go in and view their pension information and request figures from us if required. So there is a link in between the two systems, but they are separate systems.
But that very link should actually drive up the number of registrations on our system, right?
Yes, we would expect
Okay.
to see more members, and I think they're expecting quite a big publicity around the pension portal as well. So the pension dashboard, sorry. So you would expect more member contact around about that time.
It's quite a dramatic fall showing here from 38% to 11%, but yeah, I think you've allayed some of my concerns. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thanks, Stuart and Amanda. Arthur?
Yeah, just following up on Councillor Donaldson's points there. I think it is it's always, I mean, you know, I'm on the pension board because I've got this side thing of being a bit of a pensions anorak, and that's kind of the way it's seen by a lot of our members, unfortunately, and that means that we always have it, particularly in the trade union, we always have a very disappointing view of disappointed view of our members' interest in their pensions, particularly if they're of a younger age. Maybe as people get older and the thought of retirement gets closer, people do get a bit more interested, particularly if there's things like voluntary redundancy or voluntary retirement schemes going on or whatever. You get people suddenly taking a bit of an interest and wondering where they can go look at it. But it is I think it is a challenge. We do need to kind of really look at how much member engagement we've got in terms of using the portal and on a regular basis and checking it. But particularly because I think the new portal does actually provide a better interface, I've got to say, than the previous one. Still notice a couple of wee bugs in there. For instance, it tells me when I get anywhere near to my retirement age, a couple of days before, suddenly it flips to telling me I've gone past my retirement age, and I would then have an add-on to my pension rather than a reduction. But I'm not sure why that's happening. But minor things like that, it is definitely an improvement in many ways on the old portal. But I do think, yeah, we've just got to really keep thinking of new intuitive ways to get more people to actually take it seriously and to look at it and understand it. It's an age-old battle, but we've kind of got to keep plugging away at it and thinking of ways to try to do that, because, I mean, 38% was pretty bad, but it's gone down to 11 now, and that's probably just because people who can't be bothered to go through that next stage to kind of say, I want to go from the old scheme to the old link that they maybe had to, and they probably had their password stored somewhere on having to re-verify and go through the new ones. Just a bit too much of an ask for them, which says something about people's interest in pensions. But I think we do need to kind of do a bit of work to try and get people to get more people back on board, because that's, yeah, it's not healthy if that few people are going. And I don't think it's a fault of the portal. I think it's just we need to do a bit of work with our members about getting them actually realising it's an important thing they need to take seriously. Thanks.
No, I think these are all very valid points, and sure the team will look at that and see how they can encourage members to become more involved. So with that, is that item 6 agreed? Moving on, please.
Item 7 is the annual external audit plan, and it's for noting.
So this report provides a summary of the responsibilities and approach of Audit Scotland in respect of Tayside Pension Fund for the 25-26 accounts. Members are asked to note the content of the report, to also provide Audit Scotland with confirmation of any instances of actual, suspected or alleged fraud. I'm sure we're hopefully not going to do that, as a requirement of the revised international standard in accounting. So Fiona Owens from Audit Scotland is here to present their plan and answer any questions on the content. So Fiona, over to you, please.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Just a couple of things to highlight. Obviously, I'll take the paper as read. In line with the ethical standards, page 3 outlines that Rachel and the team are independent of the pension fund, which is obviously very important for the external audit. Within paragraph 5, you'll see that sets out the scope of the audit, and that shows that it's not just the accounts that we're looking at, we also include wider scope elements there, so it's more than just the numbers that we're looking at. As highlighted, just looking to see if there's any frauds that need to be brought to my attention. I'll have a brief pause. but don't see any hands, so I will take that as nothing at this moment in time. As always, please do get in touch with either one of us in the audit team, either myself, Rachel or Mary, if there is anything that you have as a concern of fraud within the pension fund. We will revisit this when it comes to the end of the audit as well, just during the accounts process. Exhibit 1 in the report just outlines the materiality levels. Planning materiality is based on 2% of net assets, coming out at 111 million. The performance materiality is set at 65% of this, giving 72 million. And then the reporting threshold has been set at 5.5 million. So this is all broadly similar to the levels that you'll have seen in the previous year for the audit. Exhibit 2 just outlines the risk of material misstatement. The only one that we've got in there is the risk of management override of controls. And this is a presumed risk in the auditing standards. And this is applicable to all bodies, so it's not anything that's unique or any more risky for the pension fund. You'll see that as standard in all annual audit plans. Just below that in paragraph 17, you'll see there are 2 other key audit matters that we have highlighted. One is evaluation of the level 3 investments, and the other being the actuarial valuation of the retirement benefits. The work that we're going to do to address this is set out in paragraphs 20 and 21 of the report. Exhibit 3 just shows the timeline for the audit, and you will see that we're working towards the 28th of September for the sign-off, and this is in line with the statutory deadlines. This is obviously a priority audit, just because we are giving assurances to various other bodies for the pension fund, so this one is prioritised in here. The last thing just to highlight is within paragraph 33, and that is the audit fee for the year, which is £37,210. This is an increase of 4.3% on the prior year. And again, this is a standard increase that you will see across all the audits for the year. So it's not as if there's anything that has been pulled out as a higher risk for the pension fund. It is just a standard increase. This does include a slight increased element just for the testing of the level 3 investments, because it's obviously new and a slightly more risky area for us. That was all I was really wanting to highlight there, but I'm happy to take any comments or questions from members. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Fiona. Any comments or questions from members? I've got Stuart first.
Okay, thanks, Willie. Fiona, can I just go to this more factual point, point 20 in the report, and it states Tayside Pension Fund held 627 million of level 3 investments at end of March 2025. So that's in terms of, it's just over 10%, probably about 11-12% of the total fund value. So I'd just like to ask you, and maybe I'm showing my ignorance here, but how do you define level 3 investments, and what particular special challenges in terms of an audit do they present to you?
Thank you for your question there. So in terms of level 3 investments, those are the ones that we don't have market data available for. So your kind of level 1 and level 2, we can go out to the market and see what they are sitting at, whereas level 3, we don't have the same availability of information. So within those investments, we deem there to be an increased degree of subjectivity and a lot of estimations and assumptions put into the value of those. Again, this isn't something that you see as unique for the Tayside Pension Fund. All pension funds at the moment are having the kind of same discussions around about level 3. So that's the reason that we deem them to be more risky, and that's kind of how we define them as not having that information readily available to, you know, do a web search or something to get the kind of what it's been listed at.
So it's investments that are not marked to market, that are perhaps a direct property. In that, does it include private equity, or indeed, and it's quite a topical issue just now, private credit?
I might just bring Mary in to see if she has got the detail on that, but to hand, I don't have that, I'm afraid, but I'll just double check if Mary does.
I'm happy, Fiona, if it's helpful. So yes, that would include private equity, private debt, and any private market assets. Effectively, if you can't go to a screen and read off the price, you're into level 3. That's not to say those assets aren't being marked to market, so that the managers that you've appointed essentially have processes in place to review the valuation of those assets. So they should be getting regularly reviewed, but just from an audit perspective, there's not an immediate independent source you can cross-reference that valuation against.
I may come back on that when the annual report and accounts, our auditor accounts are made available. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Black, Jimmy?
I think Councillor Donaldson has maybe asked my question and got quite a good answer for it. I was just triggered by the word subjectivity and £627 million coming in the same paragraph. I thought that does sound like a significant risk, but I think Fiona's answered the question as far as it can be answered. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. I'm not seeing any further comments or questions. So Fiona, thank you for your presentation, and I'm taking it that item 7 is agreed.
Okay, so that then takes us on to item 8, internal audit reports, risk management framework review, and this is for approval.
So basically, as it says in the tin, report details the review undertaken that focused on the risk framework review for the Tayside Pension Fund. PwC have provided an overall rating of this area as satisfactory with exceptions, driven by 4 medium rated and 1 low rated findings. Members are asked to note the contents of the reports. Stephen, please.
Thanks very much, Willie. It's just a general point regarding the timelines for remediation. So I note that the agreed timeline for addressing these points is the 31st of December, which is obviously not the next board, not the following board, but the board after that. And in fact misses the board after that. We would be looking at this again in March. So I'm just wondering if what the kind of agreement was behind that date, and if there's any way it could be brought forward to get assurance to the board for the December meeting, please.
Who's able to pick up on that, please? Paul.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Arron, for the question. So I guess the rationale behind that was looking at, none of the findings were necessarily deemed to be of high risk, but we can certainly look to bring forward these actions, earlier than the December date. The expectation is that we would be done no later than that, and reflecting some of the other challenges that we've already discussed in terms of resources, etc. And that's really the rationale.
If I can come back, Chair, if that's okay. Yeah, I appreciate that point, Paul, and I suppose to go back to your point about resources, if there's recommendations, if there's implementations of that to be done fully, obviously that affects what we're talking about previously, the risk register, etc. So there's a whole kind of chain of action. So I presume all of that would need to be done for coming back to the board. As I say, I'm conscious about resources, but there's, if things take longer, or if there's issues with it, it would be good to have cognizance of that, as I say, before the following board in March. So if that could be done, that would be appreciated. And even if you could come back with an update as to, why you feel it can't be brought forward before we got to December, if it was when we come back after summer, that would be helpful.
Okay, thanks for that. Not seeing any other interventions, so I'm taking that as approval for item 8.
Okay, item 9 is the Treasury policy statement, and it's for approval.
So, annual report outlining the governance of Treasury activities undertaken by the pension fund. Not seeing any comments or questions? So taking that as approval.
Okay, that takes us on to item 10, Treasury Management Strategy, and this is also for approval.
Another annual report outlining the fund strategy to ensure that sufficient funds are held to make all necessary payments, ensuring security and accessibility and capital preservation. Again, a report, no change to the strategy. Not seeing any comments or questions. I'm taking that as approval as well.
Okay, thank you. That takes us on to item 11, Pension Administration Strategy, and this is for approval.
Further annual report setting out the fund's policy. Not seeing any comments or questions on this report, so I'm taking that as approval as well.
Item 12, Tayside Pension Fund Communication Policy. This is also for approval.
Annual report that presents the fund's communication policy as required by the Local Government Pension Scheme Scotland Regulations 2014. Again, approval of members is sought, noting there are no changes to the policy. Seeing any comments or questions, so I'm taking that as approval.
Okay, that takes us then on to item 13, which is the business plan, and it's for approval.
Another annual report. Again, not seeing any comments or questions, so I'm taking that as approval.
Okay, the following agenda items are confidential, so will any members of the press or public please leave the meeting now, and I'll stop recording the meeting.